because they argue all the time and they make up, and what's the point in being in a relationship if you're not happy?
Instead of taking any accountability, he just deflected.
After in an argument, you literally threatened her and said, you know, I can take the exclusive away.
I am here for Andrada and Billykiss because they were able to say what everybody else was too polite not to say, and they were able to sort of explain the truth to Don and Meg in a way that they understood it. Malaysia was not there for the crap. She just said a one-liner. When they tried to argue with her, she sat down. When they said, we're going to prove you wrong, it's like, girl, you're only proving yourself, and you're in for a rude awakening once you leave the doors of the villa. And Don and Meg were proof of what everybody else was saying, in the sense that he always deflects, he always looks for a way to sort of worm his way out of conversations that he's uncomfortable with. And for Romel to have the audacity to say Yaz and Jamie are the weakest couple, please take several seats. I'm not here for it. I really don't get why you're here. And I think production, I'm surprised that they went all the way back to Sophie. I would have thought they would have, stopped their top 10 or whatever, or maybe they didn't or weren't sure what result they would get if they only stopped at 10. They didn't want Meg and Dijon in the show, so they went as far back as possible. I'm also surprised that Connor and Meg were not there, but hey, it is what it is. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island UK Season 12, Episode 56. So Connor and Megan are gone. Am I surprised that they left? No. At the end of the day, I still don't get why Megan needed to come back outside of just coming back to pick up Connor. Otherwise, there was no reason for her to come back. Anyway, the Islanders come back. You have Dijon sitting in the den with Cash and Harry, and he's saying that his date didn't go well. It was a nightmare. Meg feels some type of way. She, really is upset that I chose Yaz. At the end of the day, it just showed me that any moment could be your last with Connor going. So I'm happy that I feel like I've already won. I've got a girlfriend, I've got friends. And it's like, if you feel like you've already won, why not pack your bags and go, Dijon? I really don't get why he has to sort of try and put a spin on every single thing. He and Meg are not compatible. He and Meg have been toxic. He has stayed with Meg because he felt like Meg was going to give him the win that he wanted. He has stayed with Meg because she was able to put up with everything that everybody else wasn't willing to put up with. So that's the only reason why he's stayed with Meg. So the idea that, I've already won. Okay, if that works for you, and if you think everybody's going to eat that up. And the boys, you could tell, didn't understand why he was confused, but they're trying to be his friends instead of just telling him the truth. Yes, some of it is very sort of it sounds like Meg wants Dijon to be a part of her beef with Yaz. And him choosing to say Yaz is the person that he wants to couple up with, she doesn't see the big picture, in the sense that he's trying to repair his image because he knows, or he's trying to repair their image because he knows that Yaz is one of the popular girls in the villa. That's the impression that I get. You had Yaz sitting at the mini fire pit with Angel because that's the only other member of the clique left, and Ty, and she's busy saying to them, our date was terrible. We just sat in silence. And Ty is taken aback that, was it that bad? And she went, yeah, it was that bad. We just sat there in silence. He doesn't seem to see where I'm coming from. And it's like, I don't think everybody understands why you're making such a big deal about it, that the two of you would fall out and not want to speak about it. This shows that their communication style is terrible. They've been together for 8 weeks, but they can't have a decent conversation to save their lives. So it's like, why are you two still together? Can you tell the rest of the class? Because we all are wondering why you're still a couple if you can't just have a simple conversation. Meg then stands up to go to the kitchen. You have the baddies are sitting on the day beds, and you have Tony sort of say to the other two girls, you need to keep quiet for a minute, keep quiet. I think she wanted to see if Meg would say anything to them or see if she could hear anything. Well, Meg went to the kitchen. You then had Yaz actually say, I feel very sorry for Megan because she's really had to put up with a lot. And I think everybody in the villa can see that Meg has had to do all the compromising in this relationship in order for it to work. Dijon has got his way. He's got every single thing that he wanted. And she has had to sort of bend herself backwards and forwards. It doesn't seem he listens to her when she speaks. So hey, I don't know how they're going to resolve this when they get into the real world. You then have Meg pull Dijon for a chat to the terrace. I think this was staging on their part. I think they wanted to appear as though they'd got over it because they could see that everybody just saw the cracks in their relationship. And so Meg is saying to Dijon, it's not about the game. It's the fact that, you know my history with Yaz. Why would you pick Yaz? And it's like, your history with Yas is because of you. You had an issue with Yas exploring a connection with your partner, even though Yas was a bombshell. I don't know what you expected her to do, to come and sit in a corner and wait for your permission to sort of explore a connection with Dijon or what. It doesn't make sense, and I think this is why Dijon is sort of struggling to understand. The girls sort of get ready for the night. The boys are getting ready for the night. The boys are talking about Connor and the fact that they will miss him. The girls are talking about Megan and the fact that she was able to get what she wanted and how quiet the changing room is without her. And it's like she was barely back. So what difference did she make? Anyway, the islanders sit in bed, and one thing I love about Shakira is she's always going to put up with whatever nonsense Harry's putting up is doing, because I don't think Helena would have done this, but with them wearing their little hats in bed was so cute. You had sort of ask Tony to say, is there anything you want everybody else to know? And Tony, I think, didn't want to make a big deal about them being exclusive, but eventually she told the rest of the group. Everyone was excited and they went off to sleep. I see why Dijon has got a hold of Meg and she's always boyfriend, girlfriend, because every night he is busy, and as the lights went out, he was busy. Whether it was his hand or whether it was something else, I don't know. In the morning, we have the girls and the guys separate and have debriefs in their groups. And I'm really happy that they've really cut down on the number of debriefs that we receive, because it used to be everybody speaking about their situation. So I'm happy that they've really cut down on that because it wasn't necessary. Anyway, I think because the clique is only down to 2 members, you had them sit with the baddies, and it was surprising because this is the first time since the show started that we've actually seen them sit there and actually seem to actually tolerate each other's presence. You have the guys sitting on the sun deck, the girls are sitting on the day beds. And so they're having a debrief of how the dates went. And Meg reveals that her date was awkward because of the the name situation. They are still working on it. Dijon seems to have finally understood what she was trying to say. Well, that's the impression that she's trying to give. Do I believe it? No. I think they've just decided to let bygones be bygones and just to hope that they get to the very end and they win this thing. You have Tony talking about, she had her date on the terrace, which was really amazing for her. And I think it was very good that she went to the terrace because, as I said in my previous review, it allowed her to sort of change the narrative of her time on the terrace, so which I really loved. You have Shakira saying this is the happiest she's been. Shakira and Harry really work very well, and they bring out qualities, or Shakira brings out sides of Harry that we haven't seen. I remember Helena complaining bitterly the first time she's tried to steal Harry and he went back to Shakira. And I remember Helena saying, why do you do everything for Shakira that you won't do for me? And this is exactly the same thing. We haven't heard Harry be crude ever since he went back to Shakira. He's always been thoughtful. He's always prioritized her. He's always done everything in his power to make her happy. So I can see why she's happy. She's happy that they're back to square one. You have Yasmin talking about the fact that, before their date, they had a conversation about the situation with the Dijon matter and they were able to iron it out. The fact that, Jamie's still sort of muddled because he doesn't understand. I think Jamie needs to watch from the start of the show to sort of understand why Yaz did that. And he'll actually appreciate the Yaz that he has been able to experience, because she's actually grown and become a more mature version of herself, a more emotionally intelligent person, a more sort of positive responsive person instead of a reactive person that she was before. So I love that for them. With the boys, you have Cash sort of saying he's very happy that he's now exclusive. He's trying to not sort of show it, but he can't because this is the first time he's been exclusive with someone, it seems. So I loved that for them. He seemed very happy. Jamie said he's happy because he has received his present, in the manner that he wanted her to receive it. She was very happy. He didn't expect her to be that emotional, and I think Yaz herself didn't expect herself to be that emotional. And the guy is sort of talking about the fact that, it's nice to give someone a present and they appreciate the sentiment behind the gift. And this is the thing. I think Yaz not only appreciated the gift, but she appreciated the sentiment that he actually remembered that she had a cat and he took that into consideration when he got her a gift. And so it's going to be interesting to see who actually lasts outside the villa and who doesn't. Anyway, you have the islanders sitting there, couples. I assume they were told to go into their couples. And you have Cash and Tony having a conversation. And Tony saying, I'm very happy we are where we are. Cash on his part is also happy. They talk about the fact that Cash didn't even ask her to be exclusive. He just told her, we're now exclusive. Let's keep it stepping. And Tony says, she didn't expect it. But Cash is saying, I already was behaving as an exclusive person. I just needed to say it just for the sake of saying it. Tony on her part says, I was already the same way. And she talks about the fact that, she was considering moving to the UK. And this is something she had said from the start. And it's interesting because this shows that Tony really sees a future with this guy. And she has a solid friendship in Yaz and Shakira. So even if she were to move, she would have people that would support her and look out for her. So I really loved this for them because they really seem to, they seem at peace. They seem very cute. They seem very caring about one another. So I love that. And I remember Tony's mom had said that, even if Tony moves to the UK, they're okay with it because the travel time, it seems, is the same from Vegas to wherever her parents live as compared to the UK and where her parents live. I love that. Tony then asked, is there anything you change about your journey? And Cash was like, nah, nothing, because at the end of the day, it's allowed me to be where I am. Tony, on her part, I think, was going to say, initially she said I would have stopped allowing myself to be treated the way I was treated. But then on the bright side, it has allowed me to appreciate when someone treats me very well, and which is good though. It's very good because Cash is treating her the way she deserves to be treated, whereas Harrison was just treating her like she was nothing. So I love that she appreciates that and recognizes that. Even Cash on his part, you could see he was happy with how she ended that sort of sentence. Dijon and Meg, I think they're trying to put lipstick on this pig. I think they really are. Because Dijon is saying, I missed you yesterday when we went out, spending time away from you made me realize that we were going to be okay once we leave the villa. I don't think so. I think it's only a couple of weeks or a couple of months and they're over. Maya Jama then arrives. She reveals that, there were two couples that were also in the bottom with Meg and Connor. The two couples that revealed is Dijon and Meg and Angel and Ty. Angel and Ty, I'm not surprised because they really don't have that much of a fan base. I think if they get a fan base, they'll get a fan base if Dijon and Meg are dumped. Then maybe Meg and Dijon's fans might, out of spite, want to vote for them. But hopefully they don't do that. Maya reveals that all there are people coming to make a decision. So all the ex-Islanders come, bar Connor and Megan. I don't understand why they didn't come. I really don't understand because at the end of the day, unless production knew that bringing them in would have sort of complicated the voting. So maybe this is why they didn't come. Blue is back again. Blue needs to pay rent. He's back again in the villa. So all the ex-Islanders and the current Islanders gather around the fire pit. You have the vulnerable couples standing on their own and then the other, safe couples standing on their own. I think this was done so that there was no sort of mix-up because had they asked the couples to vote for one another, everyone would have received votes. And then the producers might not have had the person they wanted dumped. That's the impression that I get. And so they decided to go with public vote. And because I think there's been a lot of outrage, especially with Megan coming back with fans saying, why did you ask us to vote if you're going to bring the person back? So I think this is why they just decided to go with public vote for who was vulnerable. Anyway, they have the individual ex-Islanders stand up one at a time and decide who they want to dump. First up is Sophie. Sophie talks about this couple has had a lot of issues. They've had a lot of challenges. They have very poor communication style. Nothing is ever resolved. And you could see from Megan's face before Sophie even started speaking, I think there's some bad blood there because of the way she behaved and the face that she pulled. You have Megan and Dijon say everyone is entitled to their opinion. And it's like, well, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But at the same time, don't you think with everybody telling you that your communication is poor, it's something the two of you need to look into? Next up is Shay. Shay said this couple argued a lot. Even their family members agree that they don't seem to have very good communication styles, or they don't seem to get along very well. He voted for Dijon and Meg. I think this came out of left field for Dijon and Meg. I think they expected Shay to vote to save them. So the idea that he voted against them is something they were not expecting. Next up is Blue. Blue needs to be local resident in the villa. He needs to be the groundsman because he's been to the villa more times than anybody else. He said, this couple has only been together for a week and this is why he feels they're at an advantage. Do I think so? Yes. At the end of the day, Angel and Ty have managed to not have any sort of bombshells coming to test them on. Well, they did have Blue, but it wasn't really a test. And also, they haven't had to have any communication issues or conversations that we've actually seen. I think production in some way wants them to be the winners because they are less sort of confrontational. They are less sort of toxic or rumor sort of riddled, in my opinion. Blue implied that, had he had the opportunity, had it not been a week left, he would have been able to turn Angel's head. And she pied him. Blue is the only person who's been into the villa 3 times and he's been pied every single time by a girl. And I don't get why he continues to do that. You had Maya ask him, would you have been able to turn Angel's head? He said yes. And you had Angel answer no. And it's like, well, that's embarrassing. Next up was Tommy. He said he spent 24/7 with Meg and Dijon. He understands them better than anybody else. So if nothing else, he would be able to know if they're compatible, according to what he's saying. He voted against Angie and Ty. Surprised, no. He was always going to suck up to them because they protected him in the villa. They sort of were his support system, especially when he went through whatever he went through with Megan. So I'm not surprised that he chose to save them and he voted against the other couple. Ramel was just being messy. I think Ramel wanted airtime. I think he didn't get as much social media presence or sort of outrage as he expected the first time round. Because at the end of the day, for him to bring up Yaz and Jamie doesn't make sense. Yes, there's an issue with one wanting children. He didn't even say he wanted children. He said he's not sure. So for Ramel to sort of bring it as an issue doesn't make sense to me because he said, I personally believe that the least compatible couple is in the people that are safe. It's Jamie and Yaz. And it's like, mind your business. Mind your business. Anyway, he said, bringing in a bubble is different compared to being on the outside. And so he feels like, these people are really going to struggle. Dijon and Meg, they're going to struggle on the outside, given the fact that Dijon's head kept turning. And Dijon, I think he expected the guys to save him. And so for the guys to be turning against him, this is something he didn't see coming. Next up is Lucy. She said she spent a lot of time with this couple, so she understands them better. So she voted to dump Ty and Angel. Am I surprised? No, she was a member of the clique, so she was always going to save captain of the clique. So hey, it is what it is. You have Ben. Ben spoke about, being on the outside world is different from being in the villa. And so there are challenges that come with being in the outside world. And he doesn't think that this couple is going to cope. Given the fact that they've had a lot of challenges in the villa, it makes sense. It really makes sense. Then it came out that apparently he had cheated on Andrada or he had done something. And so he was talking from experience. And it's like, wow, it is what it is. Dijon wasn't happy with this because he said he's already faced as many challenges as he could. And so he doesn't understand why people are saying that in the outside world he would struggle. Next up was Harrison. He's saying during his time in the villa, he spent a lot of time with this couple and he believes that they have something very genuine. So he voted against Angel and Ty. Surprise, no. Harrison was always going to save his boss. Young Bull was going to save Big Bull. Emily was a member of the clique. There was even no need for her to give a speech. We all knew she was going to vote to side with Megan. So she said they've overcome a lot of challenges, and they're stronger for that. They're not. You should have watched the previous episode. She voted to dump Angel and Ty. Surprise, no. Lauren was next. Lauren said she spent every day with this couple. Obviously, they were there for her when she went through her Harrison situation. So it makes sense that she would want to save, Dijon and Meg. So she voted for Angel and Ty. Alima said, when she was in the villa, she felt there was a very strong connection between this couple. But then since leaving the villa, she's seen a different side to it. And she's seen that their connection is one-sided. And so she's voting to dump Dijon and Meg. I don't think Meg expected this because they never had beef with Alima, because initially she wanted to have beef with Alima but realized that Alima wasn't even going to pay mind to Dijon. She wasn't interested in him as a partner. So the moment she realized that, that's when they became friends. So for Alima to call her out, she didn't expect this. Boris said, Dijon is my good friend, but Ty is my best friend, and because for that reason I'm voting against Dijon and Meg. And it's like, hey, it is what it is. What do you say? Even Shakira laughed because it was just a one-liner. There was no need for argument, and there's nothing Dijon could have said, because if Harry was sitting on the bench, he would have said the same thing. Next up was Malaysia. Malaysia said these couple argue all the time. Why be in a couple if you're going to be sad? So she voted for Dijon and Meg. Meg wasn't happy with this comment. She said, we're going to prove you wrong. And I love that Malaysia said, you argue with yourself. I'm not in the mood. I don't have patience and I don't have time for that. So if you want to argue with yourself. And it was like, oh my God. Gio said apparently he knows Angel because she's dated one of his friends. Angel then tried to dispute that to say she didn't date him. So I don't know whether it was a random hookup. So he decided to vote for Angelique and Ty. It makes sense. I think he could see something about the way she behaved in this connection as compared to the previous one. That's what he was more or less trying to imply. Helena was next. She said, all the couples are compatible. She feels some type of way about some of the comments that have been made about, obviously, her friends, because two friends are in the bottom. And she said they've always chosen one another. What is compared to everyone is in the honeymoon phase. And it's like, what honeymoon phase? Shakira and Harry went through hell because of you. Tony and Cash went through, well, she didn't go through hell with Cash, but she went through hell with Harrison because of you. So what do you mean all the other couples are in the honeymoon phase? And given the fact that you had Angel sucking up to Helena so much only for Helena to vote for her, choose your friends wisely. So she voted to dump Ty and Angel. So next you had Emma. Emma, I think, had a lot of issues with this couple, so I'm not surprised that she voted for them. She said, they made no effort to get to know me. Every time we spoke, it was always an argument after an argument. So she didn't get to see their relationship because they were never in a good space together. Whereas with Angel and Ty, she got to spend more time, so she knows they're compatible. She voted against Dijon and Meg. Meg decided to say this is not Friendship Island, and it's like, well, it's not Friendship Island, but because it's not Friendship Island, you're on your way home because you didn't make friends. Next up is Andrada. Andrada was the final blow. Well, she wasn't because Billykiss was still waiting. Andrada said this relationship is one-sided. It's cringe. They've gone through phases and she's voting for Dijon and Meg. Dijon didn't like that because he felt like it wasn't one-sided. Meg tried to sort of defend the relationship, and this is when Andrada brought the receipts. She told them, look at what happened to you in the last episode, how you were fighting for your life, how this man kept telling you to shut down and you wouldn't shut down, and you ended up in the end when you realized that everybody else was in a happy space. He told you just sit there and smile, and you sat there and smiled. So I don't get what you mean. You can't see that it's one-sided. We know you're genuine, but the guy you're with is not. Dijon then decided to, sort of self-preserve and say, oh, I watched Love Island one season and I came in, I thought you were supposed to explore connections and until you find your strongest connection, which is what I did. No, Dijon is friends with Tyreek, so Tyreek must have told him and he must have come in with a game plan, and sadly his game plan has exploded in his face. Lastly was Billykiss. Billykiss said this, this relationship is one-sided. They prioritize the other person. Dijon said she voted for Dijon and Meg. Dijon tried to protect himself and say that he learned a lot about himself. I don't think he's really learned a lot about himself. And then you had Andrada have to bring in the situation that you threatened to take away, your exclusivity from Meg because she was making so much noise about something that you didn't agree with. So the idea that you think that this is what you did doesn't make sense. So it's revealed that Dijon and Meg have more votes than Angel and Ty, so they are the ones that dumped. The ex-islanders leave the villa. And you have, the Dijon and Meg saying goodbye to everyone. I always don't understand someone saying to the other person, I love you, when you've treated them badly. It's either you love me or you hate me. There's no in between. I'm sorry. For Meg to be saying she loves Tony, I don't quite get it because of how she's treated Tony in the villa, but then I might be mistaken. So they packed their bags and they left. You could tell they were heartbroken that they were leaving. Poor Harry was crying because Harry, his closest friend, has been Dijon. Meg and Dijon, on their exit interview, are saying we're going to prove everyone wrong. You don't have to prove us. Just do you. Just do you. We really don't need the proof. Just do you. And if you work out, amazing. If you don't, amazing. We root for love. So whatever happens with the two of you, it is what it is. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 54. Bye everyone.